The Formula One car unveiled on Friday in New York by Red Bull Racing was dubbed the RB19. But what happened on stage in the American city was, as some already expected, a presentation of the 2023 livery, with some new sponsors placed on their 2022 car. It was undoubtedly a huge disappointment for everyone watching it. But why did Red Bull lie so openly to their customers? Let us investigate. It's clear from Red Bull's launch of the RB19 that the team doesn't value their fans' time. Frankly, their lies made the whole thing a farce. It would be very simple, to be honest, about what it was doing in New York, because it was simply done to release the news about Ford. Perhaps we're wrong, but the fact that it couldn't even tell if Stefano Domenicali was in the building suggests that the Red Bull people in attendance believe it was an RB19 on display. Unless it releases anything extra from a shakedown, Red Bull will reveal the real RB19 at the February 23 tests in Bahrain, and their antics are nothing new. Fans eager to see Adrian Newey's first ground effect Red Bull had already been disappointed when the team presented at its 2022 launch a mock-up car almost identical to the one shown by the FIA to announce the new rules, but still calling it the RB18. The real RB18 was only seen at the pre-season test in Spain, and a later version with updated side pods was only seen on the final day of testing in Bahrain. Hiding final aerodynamic solutions until the end of testing is a practice that more and more teams are adopting. For example, Racing Point presented a completely different car at its launch in 2020 than the one that then raced, which was a copy of the 2019 Mercedes. Mercedes themselves used two completely different cars in pre-season last year, only bringing the zero side pods version of the W13 to the second test in Bahrain after launching with a much more conventional looking car. Returning to Friday's Red Bull, the RB19 car displayed on stage and in digital renders bore little resemblance to the actual 2013 design. Even Max Verstappen wasn't trying to hide it. When asked about the actual car that he would be used in testing during a later media session, he replied, "To be honest, I haven't seen it." Just 4 hours after standing next to a car with a big RB19 sign above it. "I've only spoken about the performance upgrades in terms of lap time and the behavior of the car," Verstappen said. "But I haven't seen any pictures or renders because I'm not interested in these kind of things. I only want a fast car, and it doesn't matter how it looks to me." Team principal Christian Horner was a little more subtle, saying that what we've seen isn't a complete representation of what will hit the track in a few weeks, and that the event was really about launching the team's aspirations for the year ahead rather than revealing the 2023 car. In reality, what was shown was an RB18, and it wasn't a particularly realistic one. The floor edge was overly simple, with a single line, whereas in 2022 that area was filled with ribs and slots to increase downforce and reduce porpoising. In fact, the car in render does not even comply with the 2023 regulations, as it is shown with 2022 mirrors. They will be larger and simpler this year for safety reasons. The RB19 will still be a clear direct descendant of the RB18, and they will share a lot of visual similarities. However, there will be an additional aerodynamic step, as that is the only real point at which teams can extract performance from cars whose engine specs have now been frozen until the end of 2025. The new rules requiring higher floors, on the other hand, will be almost undetectable and will not distinguish the 2023 F1 cars from the 2022 ones visually. Red Bull's only weakness for 2023 is that its wind tunnel and simulator hours have been reduced to 63% of the maximum allowance, as a result of both the sliding scale testing restrictions designed to assist struggling teams and the penalty for exceeding the cost cap. However, there should be much more development and change in the design than was visible in the launch car, as the New York event was really all about drawing attention to the Ford partnership that will begin in 2026. So, what about the Ford collaboration? As part of a collaboration between the American manufacturer and Red Bull Powertrains, Red Bull's two Formula One teams will begin using Ford-branded engines from 2026. Following discussions with Porsche and Honda, Red Bull's decision means that Red Bull Racing and AlphaTauri will use engines bearing the Ford name, as well as technical assistance from Ford. According to Ford, the announcement is a strategic partnership, and the American company will provide expertise in areas such as battery cell and electric motor technology, power unit control software and analytics, and combustion engine development. The new deal runs until at least 2030. Ford's return to Formula One brings together two organizations with a long history in the sport. Red Bull had a majority stake in Sauber since it was Ford's works team in 1995, and it was the Ford-owned Jaguar team that Red Bull purchased to form what is now Red Bull Racing. Red Bull established a new division to build its own F1 engine for the first time, as it planned for life after current partner Honda, which formally exited F1 at the end of 2021 and is assisting Red Bull until the current engine rules expire in 2025. The new powertrains facility at Red Bull's Milton Keynes campus has received received significant investment and is equipped to build the combustion engine, but it has always been expected to require third-party support for the hybrid system. That is where Ford claims it will have a direct involvement, elevating the deal beyond a branding exercise, as Red Bull has done in the past with Tag Heuer and Aston Martin when it used Renault engines. The opportunity to collaborate with Red Bull Powertrains presented Ford with the opportunity to be at the center of and contribute to an F1 project without the expense or expertise required to go it alone. The deal strengthens Red Bull's budding powertrains division's financial and marketing power by bringing in a manufacturer with a global profile and, importantly, a large footprint in the United States, where F1 has made significant gains in recent years. Red Bull Powertrains was never intended to be dependent on a partnership with an automotive manufacturer, but discussions were held with Porsche and Honda before Ford. Christian Horner stated that collaborating with an OEM would be acceptable as long as it was on Red Bull's terms, which Ford appears to have met by making a financial commitment and a technical contribution, while letting Red Bull retain ultimate control. In comparison, Porsche wanted to buy a stake in Red Bull's F1 operation, while a hybrid-only contribution is thought to have been too little for Honda, even though it had registered its interest in the 2026 rules with the FIA. Now it appears that Red Bull's Ford deal for 2026 raises serious doubts about Honda's commitment to Formula One's next-generation engine regulations after all. Despite officially exiting F1 at the end of 2021, Honda continues to manufacture and assemble engines for Red Bull Racing and AlphaTauri. This extension agreement is in place until the end of 2025 and appeared to be extended due to Honda's shift toward wanting to return to F1 officially. A change in CEO between the decision to leave in October 2020 and the formal withdrawal in December 2021 aided Honda's U-turn on F1 involvement. Given Honda and Red Bull's extremely good relationship and plenty of on-track success, it was natural that discussions about working together on a new engine for 2026 began once Honda's tune was changed. However, discussions were always complicated by the fact that Red Bull had already chosen to take control of its engine's future. While Honda could have worked with Red Bull Powertrains in 2026, it would have been on Red Bull's terms. That would have meant foregoing any V6 input, a speciality of Honda's Sakura base, and potentially being hybrid only. An additional complication is that while Sakura did design work on the Honda ERS, it was built at its Milton Keynes facility, which has since been taken over by Red Bull Powertrains. Unsurprisingly, given that the Red Bull Powertrains engines will now operate under the Ford banner, Honda is unlikely to be involved in the 2026 project in any way. However, Honda is still said to be interested in developing its own F1 engine. It registered its interest with the FIA last year, so it is involved in regulatory discussions around 2026 and has a clear path in if any project is approved by the board. However, there are many major questions to be answered before that is possible. The first is how Honda would go about it now that the most obvious partner is no longer an option. Despite the belief in F1 that it is possible, it has never seemed likely that Honda would set up its own team, and buying into an existing one has often been politely dismissed by those close to Honda as well. The most realistic option is to find another team for which to build an engine, and it is understood that at least one non-Red Bull entity has inquired about Honda's 2026 plans. However, if Honda does decide to return to F1, does it have the resources to do so properly? Though it continues to assist Red Bull's teams under the terms of its 2022 to 2025 agreement, Honda's F1 operation in Japan should not be underestimated. Sakura is said to be operating on a shoestring budget because, as part of the original reason for leaving F1, Honda has shifted many engineers to zero-emission projects for the automotive industry. There are also issues such as a lack of ERS infrastructure now that Honda has closed its UK facility. Nonetheless, it is possible that Honda engines will be on the grid in 2026. If that is the case, they're unlikely to replicate Honda's hybrid-era success. That could be due to the caliber of the team employing them, or the caliber of work now available to Honda. For that, we'll have to wait and see. So, what are your thoughts on Red Bull's car reveal? Were you as disappointed as we were? What do you think the Ford deal means for the team's future, and how will it affect Honda? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos.